Hello, hello, hello. Okay, I think we're ready. Hello, welcome to another episode of our Safe Space podcast. Today, I'm going to be talking to someone that quite literally creates safe spaces as a profession. Today, we're joined by architect Anthony Nazareno, who is an architect in the Philippines who has established a multidisciplinary design practice and someone who also happens to be my father. Hi, Dad.
Hello, Bea. How are you there?
I'm good. I wanted to ask you that exact question actually to start things off. How are you really, Dad?
Grateful. Grateful for a lot of things, but missing a few things, like some of my family members.
Oh, miss you too, Dad. And speaking of safe spaces, which, is part of the title of the podcast, I wanted to ask you, what do you consider as your safe space?
My safe space is my family. My safe space is are some of the people that I'm missing right now. So, yeah, that's uh, that's my safe space. I'm most comfortable when
Oh,
I'm
that's nice.
around. I'm most comfortable when I'm around you, my daughters, and your mom. That's my safe space.
That's
I
nice to know.
I
That's nice to know
yeah.
that.
The fact that I'm alone here at the moment, and you and your sisters and your mom are not here. Uh, you know that's why I'm a little not in my comfort zone at the moment. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I call you
So
all the
we are
time.
your
Call your
safe space.
sisters all the time. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So at least there's that sense of comfort calling one another.
yeah. Every day, nah. Every day.
Yeah, I call you every day.
Yeah,
No matter what time it is, I call you. I
yeah,
try and call you every day.
yeah.
Yeah. And in terms of a similarity that we have, I wanted to talk to you about the fact that we both studied here in San Francisco in the same school. We, at some point in our
Yeah.
lives, studied both at CCA.
Yeah, it's funny that our conversations, when we do call each other, span from what's going on with our family and what's going on with school, and almost specifically, you know, what you are doing for particular projects. Given the fact that
Yeah.
we both share the same interest, and we went to the same
Yeah.
school, and I ask you what's going on. It's you know uh, being at the CCA where you are at right now, uh, kind of gave me a sense of pride in the fact that uh, we share the same alma mater, and the fact that you're graduating soon. And I still remember the day I graduated. It's something that uh, I know also made me feel nervous. The fact that I was about to graduate, being in an art school, design school. Um, I wasn't so sure what my first kind of step would be. So hearing you every now and then asking me uh, if the fact that you're about to do this, embark on doing this, asking me all these, uh, reminds me of how I was when I was in art school also.
during when you were
During, yeah,
experiencing this. But
during those
yeah,
times, yeah. So it's
yeah.
but
And
but there's a strong sense of pride in me that you are there, and you are who you are, and you are who you want to be. Yeah.
thanks, Dad. And speaking of like studying in the same school, I wanted to, kind of take you back to when you were here in CCA and kind of ask you what that experience of art school was like for you, because we do talk about that a lot, like whenever we call, like with crits and just all nighters. Those are just inevitable. Like those aspects, I guess, of art school or
It
studying in design school are somewhat like inevitable. Whether you're doing graphic design or like architecture, I know is pretty tough.
it I look back at it right now, Bea, and it sounded like it seemed like it was fun. Wow, I kind of always remember the fun aspects of
Yeah.
when I was in school. Um, and I kind of seem to forget crits and how crits turned out to be for me when I was there. It's 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 those fun times that I remember. Uh, I, I I have all these little tidbits in my head where I uh, have engagements with my professors and my classmates, and those are the things that stick out. In fact, I still remember my first crit, Bea, and given the fact that
Really.
my my advisor, my academic advisor, when I first met him, told me, Anthony, you should be taking speech class. I'm like, why do I need to take speech class? I took up I I was it we need to uh, uh, stress a point that my first year of college was not in CCA, but was in UST, local school here in the Philippines. A really good school, but at one point I had been looking for something. I had been looking for something. Um, it's very different. That they were very technical here, and
Mm-hmm.
it's what so much of an art school. It's kind of almost a technical school. The architecture school here, at least the way they taught. So
Mm-hmm.
I thought CCA was perfect for me, but again, you touched a little bit on crit culture. That was so strange for me, having to really not just submit your work, but actually
But to
defend
present it,
your you have to present it
yeah.
and defend it. And it was so strange. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to talk to all of these people in front of these people every single time. And
Yeah.
my
And I
professor
think,
again told me,
yeah.
speech class, Anthony, you need to go to speech class. So yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think also with crit culture, it was a shock to me as well, just because you kind of know your work already. You're the one that started it, you created it, and you made that finished product. But it's so different, no, from you yourself knowing that work and then also presenting it to your classmates, your peers, and
Yeah,
to
yeah.
like a jury and a set of professors, because it's another like That's another thing. It's a whole different thing to just present that work to people, and you
I
kind of
I
have to. It takes time for me. It took time for me to kind of get
I
in the
did
hang of
say
it.
the word. Yeah, I did say it. It just occurred to me, Bea, that did say the word defend your work. However,
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of how I felt then, Bea, where I kind of, you were being judged by your work. You needed to defend your work. Whereas I look back and even look at it at this point where I am at in my career, and people, like some of the people I work with, clients or developers, ask you, um, uh, ask you something about your work, and try to tell you, what if we did this? Why didn't we why didn't you do this? Or why did you do this? And what if we had done this? It just tells me now the exploratory nature of art and design, and how things could possibly improve. And we talk through it, and talk through possibilities, um, as opposed to being uh, as opposed to defending your work to a point where, um, you feel closed off and not see, uh, again, possibilities of seeing another aspect, or seeing another way of doing the design. I kind of uh, opened my mind to that. In fact, not just now, Bea, not just with my uh, with my clients, but also with my team. And I try to get them as involved as possible in terms of design, and ask one another, and do crits within our own, within our own office, or at least the teams. So yeah, I try to imbibe that crit culture even within ourselves, and being as
Mm-hmm.
exploratory as we possibly can in design. So yeah, just
Yeah.
taking what we just
Yeah.
taking what you're experiencing into the real world. Yeah.
Into the real world. Yeah. Because
Yeah.
I, at first, when I would do crits, not all crits had good results in the end. And you kind of just have to learn that to not take the bad criticism to heart, but kind of think, okay, this is, a place where I can improve
Have you
on.
bombed on crits?
Yeah. I know.
I bombed on
I,
crits.
in terms of
I
like
bombed on crits.
concept, but also in terms of the way I present.
Yeah.
And I think there was especially one time where, in terms of presentation, I was just so bad. My concept was good, and all my friends were like, your concept was really good, but when you were presenting your work, and there was, the jury was my professor, everyone else in the class, and then someone from Airbnb that happened to be
Uh-huh.
an alumni. And they were like, your concept was good, but in terms of presentation, you sounded like you were about to cry, like
Uh-huh.
throughout the whole presentation. So, like, they were like, it was really good, but you sounded like you were about to cry, and your voice was shaking, your hands were shaking. I was like, I was nervous. So that was a
Are you
learning point for
always
me
nervous
to,
in
like,
crits?
you know.
I'm still, I still find myself.
Yeah.
Uh, you still are, even after
Yeah,
four
but
years. Yeah, I actually am still.
I try and always just think of I try to enjoy what, like, the work that I create. And especially, I guess, for this thesis, I really enjoy what I have started to create, so I'm not necessarily as nervous whenever I have to do a critique every week. Obviously, in the more formal settings, I am more.
You said the word
There's a
nervous,
I'm
Bea.
nervous,
I
but
mean, you said the word
yeah.
enjoy. Sorry, not nerve. You said the word enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
I I think I was the least nervous when I was enjoying what I did. When I wasn't
Yeah.
enjoying what I did, I would be nervous going into crit. But when I was uh, the most had the most enjoyment in doing what it is that we were asked to do, I didn't mind being in front of a jury
Yeah. It's a
or in
different kind
front of
of
my
nervous when you
mates.
enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
different kind of nervous when you enjoy the work. It's like I
Did
hope,
you?
they enjoy it as much as I do.
Yeah. Did you ever feel like you looked forward to a crit?
Yes. Yeah.
Really? Yeah, I think I did
There
maybe
were
once or
there were
twice. Yeah, you were
there were
that
there were a
prepared.
couple of n- like I just really liked my work. And I was like, "Oh my god, I want people to see this already," because I'm
Yeah,
someone
yeah,
that doesn't like
yeah.
showing my work before it's done, because there are those like students or peers that just want to like look over at
Look
your
over your
laptop. I'm like,
shoulder. Yeah,
"No."
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, yeah, I'm like, "No." I'll show you during the crit. But that's like, especially when I really like my work, or I enjoyed the concept and the whole process of creating it.
Yeah.
I Yeah, I look forward to
I,
the
I
crit,
I
but
think
that's
in
it's
I
very
think in
not all the
architecture
time.
school there was no way you could not see somebody else's work because we work
Yeah.
with huge sheets and they're all hard copies, and then you could actually literally see
Hmm.
what everyone else is doing and all the models that we were doing. I mean, there's no way you can't. In fact, I asked my friends a lot. They asked me a lot. I asked them a lot for help, you know. But
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's no way. And every time I get asked to help, I always ask what are we doing here, and the same thing. So what are you doing here? Yeah. So it
Yeah.
was
Crit culture,
inevitable.
yeah. And yeah, and like with crit culture, it's you're trying to help one another out by asking all these questions,
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And
right?
in fact,
It's you're just why
yeah.
well, why did you choose this? It doesn't necessarily show
And
what that concept that you're going for,
it's
but yeah, it's just helping one another out.
I in fact don't know if I told you this, but at a certain point in architecture school, we were doing crits. We were doing crits. I just realized, you know what? Whoever I helped, or whoever helped me, doing what it is that I needed help with, I'd always write down questions. I'd always write down questions on a piece of paper and hand it out to a couple of friends and always tell them,
Hmm.
please ask this. You ask this first question. You followed it up with this question, and make sure and it's funny sometimes. Um, that friend of mine would ask a question, and the professor would ask another question, and I wouldn't mind the professor, and I would just go ahead and answer the my
Actually,
friend's question first, just to make me feel at ease. Okay, I know what the answer is to this. I know how to to roll along with
I never
my
I never
my
thought of doing that.
roll along with my crit with with things that I can answer, and it was fun that way
Yeah.
because they'd give me questions too. They'd give me
Yeah.
questions to. I
So it was
mean,
like
they'd give me
teamwork.
sheets of paper to ask. So it was cool that way. I don't know.
That's so funny.
That it's probably because
never
we
thought about.
never had the same professor uh, for each for each class. So the following year we'd have somebody different, but they never caught on to what caught on to me feeding questions.
Yeah.
So you
I
never
never
did that.
Now that you're saying that, I'm like, oh my gosh, that would have been like something I could do, but I'm like at the tail end of my
Yeah,
time here in art and design
very much
school.
in the tail end.
I don't have to do that. But yeah, and even like another thing like we touched on earlier was all-nighters. Did you do a lot of those in architecture school?
Yeah, I think honestly, I think every 95% of what I did were all nighters. 95%.
Really?
I said 99% were all nighters. And
Wow.
yeah, that made me smoke a lot. That made me just do crazy things just to keep myself awake. I did have
Awake,
you've
yeah.
you've done all nighters, but
Yeah.
have you done an two all nighters? I mean, just 2 days where
Oh
you
my
haven't
gosh.
hadn't slept. You have.
I
I
did
did. I did.
3 or 4 days that
Oh,
I did
I
like
I just
3 or 4 days and it was so bad.
I did it. I did uh two all nighters once or twice, and I just I at that time I was not staying on campus. I was off campus, and I literally just had
Mm-hmm.
somebody drive for me to school for for
Yeah, it's
for
like,
that. And oh, um I remember there was one all-nighter I had where I think it was one of my finals, I think third year or something like that, where we do models, right? We do models,
yeah,
scale
yeah.
models and
I see a lot of
stuff.
architecture students doing
Yeah,
those.
yeah, we do models. And there's one time your aunt, my sister, visited the house. I think she was already in LA at that time and just visiting me.
Mm-hmm.
And she was kind of uh didn't know how I was kind of working. I was in my room and I had stuff laying all over, and there was a chair there. A chair's meant to be sat on, right? But that wasn't a chair. I mean, I was
Mm-hmm.
alone in the room, and that chair was not meant to be sat on. It was where my models were actually sitting on. But I was working on it
Oh
on
my
my
gosh.
drafting table, and then I just getting ready to go to school for the presentation, and then done with the model, put it on my put it on the chair. I literally put it on the chair so I would not
Mm-hmm.
forget to bring it with me with all my sheets. And then uh your aunt was like just uh chit chatting with me. How are you doing? I'm good. I'm just gonna uh, wash my face, head head over to school. And she was chatting, and uh, all of a sudden I kind of heard creak or a crack, and her just
Oh no.
gasping. And I think at that point I realized, no, no. it, so yeah, she didn't
She
realize
sat on it.
that she didn't realize that the chair, a chair, was not meant to be sat on. It was, you know,
Oh my god.
it was a place for my models, and she sat on the particular one I
Model.
had been working on the
Oh
entire
my
evening.
god.
So the funny thing was, I I brought the model to school, and
Like
you
the
know
one
there
that
was
she sat
absolutely
on. You kind of just,
there was absolutely no time for me to do any any more rework on it. I mean,
yeah.
I brought it to
Oh
school,
my
and
god.
I told the guy, you know, you have, I showed it to him. You have to believe that this was done, and that every little joint was glued, and just the mishap was just, you know, just had this visitor from LA being from LA, just being out of it. So your aunt's in front of me, just trying to justify the justify the chair being a chair. It was not giant ass proof.
Not giant proof at all.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I would have cried if
Oh,
something like that
I was close
had
to that. I
happened.
was actually just fuming, but yeah. He gave me a reprieve. You'd think the professor would be like, yeah, okay, Jose. And I did a pretty good presentation. You know, I just had the model there,
Mhm.
and I had enough stuff on the board for me and everyone else to talk about. Uh,
Yeah.
and we were looking at the model, and the jury wasn't, you know, they understood the situation, but you know,
Mhm.
I did pretty good considering. But I remember at the end of it, my professor told me, "Okay, so you're still gonna give me the model. I still want to see it done." So I still had to work on it for the next couple of days, just gluing it back. I'm
Oh my
like,
gosh.
yeah,
Oh
it
my
was
gosh, if
funny.
something like that happened.
Yeah, I
That's
know.
so, it's
I was
funny to look back on, but I'm sure when you were in that moment you were like
oh yeah.
just, you know. I'm
Oh,
sure. Yeah, but stuff
I
like that
hadn't
does
shouted.
happen.
Yeah, I think the neighbor heard me just shouting. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, like, I mean, no one sat on my model. I didn't have any models that could
No,
be
no, no, no,
like
no, no, no,
sat on.
no, no. Remember, I was there last month.
Oh my
I was
gosh,
there
yeah.
last month, Rita, and she
Yeah.
had
Okay,
this.
never mind.
She had me.
Yeah, I
She had
created
this.
physical mock-ups.
Yeah, you had that physical mock up, and I told you to, could you please wash the dishes or wash these, what was it? A milk bottle?
Bottles.
Milk bottle.
Milk
Could you
bottles.
please wash
Yeah.
these milk bottles? It's been sitting there for like the last week, and I couldn't take it anymore. And I washed it, and then I
Yeah.
peeled off
And he
all the
cleaned it himself.
I peeled off
And
all
he
the
peeled off the stuff I designed, and I was like,
I peeled
"Oh
off
my
all the
gosh.
things that she
Dad, I
designed
was
from
supposed
the
to take
bottle,
photos of those."
and she's like, she was needing to take photos of them, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I had to, and they were already in trash. I'm like, I had to get them, and then just
Yeah.
you know, I just had to fix them up. I was able to salvage it though. I was
Yeah.
able to salvage it.
Yeah, you did.
The model was unsalvageable.
You did.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you were
But I
able
had
to
that. I had that.
save my.
Oh my gosh, I had that too. You know.
Yeah, he was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry." I'm like,
Yeah.
I was meant to take photos of it tomorrow.
Yeah. I can
But I
understand
was
why
able to
why is she not
take those photos.
cleaning this up? Yeah.
Yeah. 'Cause I had to take photos. I had to like That was like the last step of like that project was just take photos and then I can just throw it all away. Because yeah, I was like at the tail end of like one of my classes where I had to present that. But yeah, now that you said it, that something like your model story did happen
Yeah,
to me, and very recently. Yeah, you couldn't
very.
end your time in art school without something like that happening.
Oh my.
Yeah. And like, you know, I'm sure also a lot of people are wondering kind of, you did a bit of the art and design school in the Philippines, and then you also did a part of it in the US. And I guess people may be wondering like what the difference is, and does the place or country that you study design or art school or architecture in matter?
Okay, that was a two-pronged question, but in the aspect uh of how different was it for me to have studied in two different schools, one in the Philippines and one in the US. It was very different. We didn't have any crits in the school I had studied in
Oh.
Manila. We didn't have any crits. It was so foreign to me. I didn't know about it. We would just submit our work and had no chance to present. And I felt like some of my work that I had been submitting merited uh, better grades, or at least a conversation between my professor and I, but never got that. And uh, I just needed something else, and realized that I needed to go to the CCA, a school like CCA, just to be able to, you know, thresh out all the ideas that I had in my mind. And I don't know if I told you, but I did when I finally moved to CCA from here in the Philippines. Those core classes that we have there, and I took up
Mm-hmm.
photography. I took up graphic design,
Yeah.
some graphic design classes,
Mm-hmm.
and I took up furniture design at one point. And I almost kind of
Ooh.
kind of I it interested me enough to actually just think about it really seriously. But I stuck to architecture, you know. But I do design my some of the furniture I do now. Um, so yeah, it was basically a huge change for me. Um, the schools here in the
Mm-hmm.
Philippines, though, uh, have some of the art schools, some of the design schools, have taken to crit culture and realizing that is very important for students to be able to express themselves beyond the physical model,
Yeah.
beyond what they have on the board. And I've been invited to not a few to be part of the jury. So it's great that a few schools have already adapted to that kind of uh, teaching. But it was difficult to actually move from, to answer your second question, Bea. I
Mm-hmm.
did at one point work in San Francisco and then in New York,
Yeah.
um, and then decided to move here. You know, um,
Mm-hmm.
and then the move wasn't so difficult, uh, so much as the practice itself. The practice is quite different
Mm-hmm.
here. Um, the standards are different, the technical standards are different, the construction is
Mm-hmm.
a little different. But you know, it's strange though that um, I don't know how strange, but at one point and even now, it's a little difficult for students who or aspiring architects who graduated from the US or the UK or wherever it is that they graduated from other than the Philippines to actually take the architectural licensure exam here. Um, you
Mm-hmm.
know, I was able to take the exam and pass the exam, and it's a little different now. Where it's a lot different now, actually, where you have to graduate here to be able to take the exam here.
Oh,
Yeah,
so students or Filipinos that study architecture in the States
or
can't
in
practice
or
in the
in
Philippines
or in the UK, Australia,
or in the UK?
they
Yeah.
can't practice. They cannot take the licensure exam. They can practice in a way where some of the architects in my office are graduates from Australia, say, and they
Mm-hmm.
they they're awesome. They're great, but you know, they have to work. They have to work on their um, you know, units, I suppose, to be able to qualify
Mm-hmm.
for being able to uh, practice with a license here. You know? So yeah,
Oh, so that's the
that's
that
a
must be a challenge now.
yeah. It is a challenge. In fact, you know, it's actually even clearer to me because my brother and uncle, uh, we
Mm-hmm.
all of us from me, the second eldest, to my youngest sister, your youngest aunt, studied in the U.S. But
Mm-hmm.
our eldest brother, although he wanted to study in the U.S. for law school, we all kind of realized that, you know, if
Mm-hmm.
you're going to law, you better understand the laws of where you're going to be practicing in. So he stayed
Mm-hmm.
behind and studied here in the Philippines and the Ateneo and for law school. So yeah.
Mm.
Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able um, to take up the licensure exam, the bar exam as they call it here. Yeah. So
And was
absolutely
that
understand makes sense
rule
for them.
of yeah.
But
And
I
like
know,
does that
yeah.
yeah, does that rule of having to that you have to to study in the Philippines to get a license, was that only that was only very recent, right?
It was quite recent. Yeah, it was quite recent. A few years. Yeah, a few years. In fact, I just got wind of it from a friend whose daughter is studying in the U.S. and he's kind of scratching his head, trying to figure out
Mm-hmm.
how to be able to uh, go around that. So, you know,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's something I also had to go through because I had to submit my what do you call that, the transcript to
Yeah.
to a particular government agency called the CHED, Commission on Higher Education, and tell them that I actually graduated so and so from this school, and then they had to give me um, a letter and give it to the professional or regulatory body to, okay, this fellow is qualified to take up the licensure exam or at least take it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and like, talking about what we have been talking about, architecture, how has, you know, you knew you wanted to do architecture. So how has creating these homes or safe spaces for others become a safe space for you? And what made you or what caused you to want to do residential for most of your practice or your projects?
You did you ask you said you did say that why you think I thought doing architecture was a safe space for me. It just dawned on me really, really right now that it also is a safe space for me. Other than my family, just doing something I love is a safe space for me. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I find that I'm that's something I fall back on when I just you know I need to get my bearings, and it's doing something just architectural related that it allows me
Mm-hmm.
to kind of breathe in and out easier when I do that. It's just like being around all of you, a sense of calm, sense of relief when I do architecture. But you know, doing I really don't know, Bea, how I kind of uh, found myself doing residential more than anything else. I think really, uh, you know, our practice you did mention is multidisciplinary, but for the most part, it is
Mm-hmm.
architecture and what type of architecture, what type of building typology. It's mostly residences. We do a lot more than just residences, but I enjoy most
Mm-hmm.
doing homes because I get to talk to the end user, the families, the couple, and I I, I, I enjoy that. It becomes very personal. They let me into their lives because when I start doing
Mm-hmm.
designing homes, and these are custom residential homes, each one is different. One home is different from the next. One family is different from the next.
Yeah.
One a type of home is different always. You design homes for families in gated villages, and then I design homes for um, in far-flung areas in uh, an island, in a beachfront, in a mountainside, and the context makes it different, and it's enjoyable when you kind of nitpick with them, not just what it is that they want to attain or aspire for in a house, but the possibilities, and we kind of always push the envelope. What if we do this? It's always there. It's always ever present. Uh, at least in the at least with the clients that I work with, and they just kind of almost not almost they always challenge me to come up with something, and I kind of I'm all for that. It's one of the things I enjoy most when I am able um, to do homes that are you know that express the personality of each client that I end up working with. It's
Mm-hmm.
just to give you an example, Bea. Um, I did a house for no, I was asked to design. I was in the process of designing a house for a particular client who had a particular lot size and a long list of it. We call it a wish list, a program brief, and you know, I started to design it when another client came up to me and asked me to do a house for him and his family. And in the first meeting, he was like, "Oh, this is the lot size that I have, and this is the wish list that I have." And and I in my mind, oh, this is interesting. This is about the same lot size and same requirement as another project I'm working with. I'm thinking to myself. And I asked him, "Oh,
Mm-hmm.
where is this?" And he told me, "Oh, it was in this gated village." And I'm like, "Okay. And what street?" And he said, "So and so street." And I realized, oh my gosh, it was right beside
Right
the
next to each
other,
other?
right beside this project I was doing, I was designing for. And I was like, "Wait a
Oh.
minute, you have the same last names. Do you know this guy? He's my brother." And oh my gosh. I'm like, okay, it was potentially a um, you know, I was like, floored. You guys didn't talk to each other that I was going to be doing his house, and no, 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 I didn't know. I don't know who his architect was. I didn't realize you were his architect too. I'm like, okay, gosh. The thing there was they had two very distinct personalities, and that's
Mm-hmm.
when I realized I can work with these guys because although the although they required the same number of rooms, their personalities were really different, and it
Yeah.
showed in the architecture. And I've talked about those two houses in a few in not a few talks where you know how do you design given those kinds of situations. And it
Mm-hmm.
really is, you really see the personalities of the clients in the homes that we do. And yeah, it's not just me in the uh in how Filipinos say it, bahala ka na architect. I actually do not enjoy doing that where I kind of get a blank canvas and do do whatever you want. There's a collaborative nature
Yeah.
into a residential project that there's a high level of collaboration with clients. Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's something that you create safe spaces for them, and each safe space is different depending on
Mm-hmm.
who each one is, or what the lifestyle is like, or for that matter, a safe space. And during this pandemic, Bea, we've touched on this in some of our just conversations. You know, the number of the types of homes that I do now have kind of evolved from primary homes in.
Shifted?
I'm sorry.
Have they shifted? It kind of changed because of like what people realized they needed
They've
during
changed in terms.
the
Yeah,
pandemic?
they've changed in terms of design. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but they've also, I was going to say that they've also shifted in terms of where they are. I did a lot of primary
Mm-hmm.
homes in the city, and a
Mm-hmm.
few homes outside the city were weekend homes and such, right? But safe spaces now
Mm-hmm.
have evolved to some homes literally being hours from the city, in mountainside homes, and you know, a, a beach house 3 hours away from Manila, and some homes just literally a plane ride away still before they get to them. And
Wow.
they end up being their safe spaces, their primary homes. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, just talking about this right now, you would think that their primary homes are their safe spaces, right? But a lot of these clients now have made their what their weekend homes were to be their primary homes, or at least to be their safe space. um,
Mm-hmm.
um, we've we've at least they have realized that we're still living in a pandemic. I mean, or endemic already, but some people think we're still in a pandemic. uh, and it's the aspect of us, the term social distancing, which is actually physical distancing, that
Yeah.
that we had to live through over the last couple of years. And you just being physically distant, everyone felt would make you safe from or at least dodging the virus. So, being physically distant, some of my clients really, you know, extracted themselves from their primary homes and then got themselves homes far away from the city. And it's not just in Manila, it's not just here in the Philippines. I know for a fact that, even in New York and even in the Bay Area, people have shied away at one point from being in the city and going
In the
as
city, yeah.
as far away. Some have relocated to Tahoe and Reno, at least the ones from the Bay Area, and all everywhere
Mm-hmm.
everywhere else I can think of. And then the New Yorkers they always have the Hamptons. And it is over the last 2.5 years have evolved to that, where safe spaces or homes
Mm-hmm.
that we design have you know uh, gone further afield. So yeah, we've been designing a lot of those. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I think what I wanted to say earlier when we were talking kind of about how architecture has become a safe space for you, I knew that, and I would tell my friends this, that I know that my dad still loves what he does because he's not like, he's at this point in his career where he can just, you know, go home early and like, you know, just leave it up to the architects in charge of the house to finish it up. But you would stay even overtime
Yeah.
a lot to kind of collaborate with the other architects in your firm
Yeah.
to kind of finish up projects. And that's
Yeah.
how I would tell people, it's like, I know my dad loves what he does because it
Yeah.
doesn't stop him from like, he will stay late if he has to, or
Yeah.
if
You know it. At
he
one
wants
point,
to.
yeah, at one point we were in Manila together, and you were kind of interning with
Yeah.
me, and we would just spend hours on end in the office, and not
Yeah,
out of
because dad
necessity.
would. Yeah.
Yeah, not out of necessity, but because I just couldn't stop myself from doing
Yeah. I
uh
was like, "Do you
what I
wanna do you wanna go home?" It's like, "No, not yet. Let's not yet." I was like, "Okay, okay." And but I knew then. I was like, "Well, my dad enjoys what he does, and it's very, I can see it, and it makes me like think about what the kind of designer I want to be. I want to be someone that enjoys what they
yeah.
do to that point as well."
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's
and like
it's
I.
great to be surrounded with people who are in the creative field as well. Even when in fact, even when I'm home, when I talk to you and your sister, and you have
Mhm.
uh, we talk about design, and I talk to Alexa about things that she has a penchant about architecture, as well, just reading through books. And it excites me to be around people, with your aunt, with your lola. Just you know just being around designers excite me. And I take a
Yes.
lot of
It
cues from
inspires
all
you
of
as well.
you. Yeah, I take a lot of cues from all of you. And then I I remember I remember um I'm collaborating on a particular house with your aunt right now, and she had a few ideas on some of the bags and the tables she does. And I'm just kind of looking at it, and it translates to an idea for architecture. And it kind of snowballs to larger ideas. And then I kind of can't wait to get
Yeah.
to the office. And it it's just literally talking to your aunt, one evening. And then can't wait to get to the office the next morning, because just an idea comes up for a particular project. And we just like, okay, let's forget this. Why don't we try doing this? And it was all because of you know uh, just a seed, that an idea that was planted in me, because of what I was looking, with with what my sister was doing. And just there was one time that your sister showed me a particular work by a particular architect, and I hadn't even seen that particular work. I'm like, what is that? I'm like, just so enthralled by what she showed me. And I'm like, my mind was racing. And it's being around people in the creative field also helps. It helps. So it's cool. No, I mean, you're with your family, and it feels like my safe space. But that safe space that is my family is also in the creative uh,
Helping you grow.
field. And
Yeah.
it's just kind of, you know it's another safe space I find, that just
Yeah.
kind of
And I think that,
adds on to you know a lot of things that I do for work, which is a safe space for me.
yeah.
So
Yeah. And I think, yeah.
didn't
And
realize that.
that I also catch myself being like inspired in the way where I just, when I think of something, when I'm talking to you guys, you sometimes see me get my phone and I'm like typing
Yeah,
something
yeah,
up for,
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
wait,
yeah,
wait, 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 wait. Because
yeah.
it, I can't stop at that point, like thinking of ideas, and I just list everything out so that, the next day or whenever I'm back to like what it, like doing like my graphic design work, or if it's related to like the paintings that I like doing, then I can bring those ideas in as well. So I do get inspired also a lot by what I like, whatever conversations come up with you, with your with Tita Rita, with
It's funny.
every with
I
yeah.
know for a fact that even your aunt, Tita Rita, also, you know, kind of gets ideas from architecture, and you see it in the bags that she does. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
And I see some ideas in what she does, and I get to be able to translate them in some of the work that I do. So it's fun to be around people like you and her, and your sister. I think that's great.
Yeah. Yeah. And like one of the kind of, I guess, final things I wanted to talk about with you was this idea, I guess, with in the arts that happens, or that has happened quite a lot to me, which is the imposter syndrome.
I'm sorry.
Where have you ever imposter syndrome,
Hmm.
where you kind of doubt your skills as a designer or an architect? Have you experienced that? Because I kind of have, and I was wondering like how that was like
How was
for
it for you?
you.
How was it for you?
For
Um,
me,
mm,
it for me the one of the kind of moments where I remember having imposter syndrome, unrelated to graphic design, but I was doing that painting. I did a painting for Curtis Smith. You remember that, Dad?
mm,
Where
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mito asked me
Mm,
to take part in his multisensory exhibition. I think throughout that whole process, there was a part where I enjoyed it, and then towards the end, I kind of there was a moment where I was like, wait, what if this is not like good? You
mhm,
know, why did Mito ask me to take part in this show when there are so many really good and more well-known artists taking part here? Why am I here with them?
mhm,
Why, why am I taking part as well in this exhibition? But then I tried to shift my thought process when it came to that, to instead of why am I, am I worthy or whatever, to he sees my potential,
mhm,
and he wants me to show my work to uh more people, my paintings to more people. And so after like kind of just thinking about that, I was like, okay, you
yeah,
know, it was
every
kind of
now
shifting my thought
every now
process.
and then, in the same manner as you having your own work be surrounded by other people's work, right? And
Mhm.
then just
Mhm.
finding a sense of validation, if do I belong, or I any good. Kind of, I remember that one of the first things I wanted to do was to join a competition. This was early on, and not really early on in my
Mhm.
career, but or in my practice. But we were already trying to get a foothold on at least the practice was able to get a foothold on the industry here. But I wanted to do more or beyond just residential at one point. Just
Mhm.
joining a competition. We I joined this competition for the World Health Organization headquarters in the Philippines, which was
Ooh.
beautiful. Was already it still is a beautiful building, and the competition was about an addition to the space. Uh,
Mhm.
it's a heritage building, and to be able to add on to the space needed, there was a lot of responsibility to it, and we put a lot of heart and soul and thought into that competition. And I don't know, but I I hadn't even seen anyone, you know, the other uh, participants' works were, because we
Work.
had to be invited for that competition. It was not, it was not an open
Oh, okay.
competition. So, would you like to participate? I was like, cool. I'm all for it. I love that building. I think we'll be able to do something for that. We To this day, I think that was one of my more memorable designs. My One of
Mhm.
the designs I am most proud of to this day.
Mhm.
And we never won that. We did not win that competition, and
Oh.
I was absolutely floored. I'm like, why did we not win the competition? And it was an architecture and interior uh, design competition, and we collaborated with an interior design team. And the interior design team kind of, I
Mm-hmm.
was just devastated. I literally, I was just waiting for them to congratulate our team, and we're like, it's been a couple of weeks. What's going on? I'm like, somebody else got the uh, won the competition, and I was like, could you find out what happened? And I think it was the fact that um, we were pretty young. My team and I were pretty young then to be taking on that kind of project, and it was just this devastated me to think that, you know, we did not have much else to show beyond the houses that
Mm-hmm.
we were doing then to merit us being capable of doing that. And it just, yeah, the word devastating is pretty apt, appropriate. I pretty much because of the fact that to this day, and that was a good 15 years ago, to this day, I still
Oh,
feel that was one of our best w- works. But I never show it to anyone
but what did you
because
learn?
I
Yeah.
never show it to anyone just because. What did I learn?
Yeah,
Um,
from that kind of experience.
uh, first of all, I was wallowing in, you know, there's really wondering, am I cut out for this? But realizing, you know, a lot of people still knock on my door. The fact that it was a competition, Bea, and it was other people judging what I did versus another did not help. And but the fact of the matter, after a while, people just kept knocking on our doors, asking us to do this, asking us to do that, and it just validated within me a sense of, okay, people are uh, are finding appreciation for what it is that we do, and slowly we I was able to pick myself up and learn from it by just understanding that, you know, I suppose I suppose we were that young then. I suppose we were. And gosh, you know, just given just the fact that I told you the name of that project means, everyone probably knows who, at least a few people would know who
Everyone will probably look it up.
practically got that project. And yeah, yeah, we
Yeah.
we had
I think
we I'm pretty
yeah.
confident enough to say that, we would have done a heck of a lot better. Sorry, but yeah,
But I think like with imposter syndrome, it you I what I also kind of think when that kind of stuff happens is you can't please everyone,
that is
and
true.
there will be people that appreciate your work, and like you said, there were people that were knocking at your door even after that, so
Mhm. That
can't
is true.
please everyone, and you can grow from
I'll tell you something just
everything that
before
you
I know we're in the tail end of this thing, but yeah, but I have
yeah.
told my clients, and I think, I am confident enough to say this, that when I talk to a family for homes that I do,
Mhm.
and they're like,
Mhm.
uh, you know, this is who we are, this is what we want, this is where the house is going to be, and then um, we design something for them. The long and short of it is, I always tell them, as long as you are happy with what I do for you, as long as I am happy with what I do for you, I really honestly couldn't care less what other people say. As long as you and I are happy with what we come up with, I am happy. I really am. I really am. If somebody else is happy with what I come up with, then it really honestly is a bonus for me. But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
again, those two homes that we talked about, that I'll talk to you about earlier, very different from one another and right beside each other. And it's funny that one brother asks me, which home do you like better, Anthony? And the other asks me, which of our two homes do you like better? And I'm like, it's funny. It's not a competition, but you like
Yeah.
your house, do you not? Okay, I'm good with that. As long as you like your house, as long as you like what I did
Yeah.
for you, we're
That's what
good. I
matters.
mean, yeah, your brother's not supposed to
Yeah.
like your house. He's
Yeah.
supposed to like his, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. And I guess one last thing that I wanted to ask you about is there any advice that you would like to give to people that are currently in art or design school, or people that are currently studying architecture or doing architecture as a profession?
You'll always have mentors, Bea. You'll always have mentors. You're looking for a job right now. uh, Find a place that you will enjoy working in. Find a mentor that who will who will uh, be a good influence in your work in the future. I've been very lucky. I've been very lucky with the mentors I've had in Jim Jennings and Ross Lee. Jim being a professor of mine who ended up being my boss when I worked in San Francisco. Ross Lee being a my mentor and who I worked for when I ended up in New York. Um, you know, their influence in me, not just as an architect, but in how I deal with people. It's invaluable. It's invaluable. Having said that, I take a lot of effort in myself being a mentor uh, to the people I work with, to the interns, and just the people in the office. I take a lot of pride in being able to, you know, be
Create
to
a safe
help
space
them
for learning.
through their to help them through their own practice. And and this, some of them have gone on to to have their own practices, and I still
Yeah.
ask them how they're doing out of the blue, and they still go to me
Yeah.
and ask me for advice every now and then. I Those relationships are invaluable to me. So to anyone who is looking for a job, uh, start from who you are working for. I mean, finding that mentor is really important and valuable for me, at least. Yeah, and enjoy what you do. Enjoy, but it's kind of a um, it's kind of gas gas na, right, as we call it and say it in Tagalog. But really, if you enjoy what you do, I just kind of forget everything. Really, I forget everything when I enjoy what you do, and you see that, and I see that in you too. You see that in you too. You forget everything, all your problems, and these, it's been my mantra in my practice. Really,
Yeah, I think
I've had
enjoying especially what you
I've
do.
I've had projects, Bea, that I did not accept because I knew I was not going to be uh, enjoying doing those types of projects. So yeah, it's at one point in your
Yeah.
practice you will realize that um, because I've learned to work on projects that I know I will be enjoying, you and it's served well for me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like trying to find, you know, if you enjoy what you do, then you're finding a safe space in your
Exactly. I was waiting for you to say that.
practice.
No,
Yeah. Yeah, it's trying to find the safe space in your own practice, which we kind of
there you
touched
go.
on that I see in you and what you do. So, yeah, I
Yeah.
guess we can
I'm
end the
glad you
episode
caught that. Yeah.
there. Yeah. I guess we can end the episode there. Thank you so much, Dad. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much,
Bea. I
Architect
enjoyed this.
Nazareno, for joining me today. But yeah, I hope that whoever is listening, on Spotify or watching us on YouTube, because this is going to be on YouTube as well, have learned a thing or two from the conversation, the lengthy conversation we had today, about, life in art school, and
Oh,
what
yeah,
it's like
lengthy.
to create safe spaces as an architect and as a designer. And if you did enjoy this episode, follow our Safe Space podcast on Spotify and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you want me to, if you have any other topics, or want me to cover any questions, or if you want to give me feedback and whatnot, do let me know by commenting on this video if you're on YouTube, or follow us on Instagram at oursafespace.ph and message me on there. And if you want my dad back, maybe we can do another episode with him.
I'd
But
enjoy
yeah,
that.
until the next episode, yeah, dad can do another episode with me. But until then, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye. Love you, Bea.